Hey guys, J.A. Graves, physical therapist, strength coach here to talk to you on another exciting Mobility Monday. Today we're going to talk about the do's and don'ts of hip flexor stretching. All right guys, today we are going to talk about the do's and don'ts of hip flexor stretching. Now, it's really popular right now and has been for a while to do a lot of stretching for the hip flexor. So if you're not sure what the hip flexor is, your hip flexors are the muscles right here on the front side of your hips. And they are responsible for flexing the hip, which would be bringing the hip up like this. Now, a lot of people think that because as a society we sit so much that our hip flexors are tight. And in some of the population, this is true. So hip flexor stretching can be very good for some people. Now, the problem with hip flexor stretching is that a lot of people aren't doing it quite the right way. And unfortunately, this can lead to further problems down the line, including some hip injuries, such as impingement of the hip, and may lead to some other issues down the line in terms of lower back pain. So I wanted to spend this Mobility Monday talking to you guys about hip flexor stretching and the right way to do it versus some of the ways that you'll commonly see this exercise done incorrectly, okay? So again, we're going to be trying to stretch the structures on the front of the hip here. Now, the easiest way to get started with this is to set up in what we call a half kneeling position. And I'm going to show that to you right now. So I'm in a half kneeling position right here, and I'll show you from the side. This is half kneeling, okay? Now, where we see a lot of people go wrong with this stretch is they tend to put too much forward movement through their hips and oftentimes into their lower back. And you'll often see it look like this. Okay, so while it's true that when I do it this way, I do feel a stretch on the front side of my hip, I'm probably not getting the most out of this exercise that I can. I might be overstretching the ligaments on the front side of the hip. I could be putting too much compression through my lower back, and if you have irritability to compression in your lower back, then this is not going to do you any good. If you already have a loose hip and it feels tight and you're doing this stretch, you might be making things worse, especially if you're doing it like this, okay? Now, the proper way to perform a hip flexor stretch is going to be in this half kneeling position, and from here, you just want to squeeze your butt as tight as you can. Now, in a lot of people, they're going to feel a stretch right away. They'll feel it up here and also down here in the thigh. Okay? So you're going to get set right here, and then from here, you're just going to lean forward a little bit. So I'm not going to do one of these. You're going to squeeze your butt and lean forward just a little bit. Okay? Now, what you'll notice is when you squeeze your butt, again, you'll feel that stretch almost immediately, and you don't have to move very far forward to feel the stretch right here in the front of the hip, okay? Now, this is going to be a way better way to do a hip flexor stretch so that you're not further injuring yourself if you're already injured, or, you won't set yourself up for an injury down the line. So try this hip flexor stretch if you know that you have tight hip flexors. If you have a lot of sharp pain with this, definitely get that checked out. You shouldn't feel sharp pain. It should feel therapeutic, and it should feel like a stretch. And then let us know how this works out for you, and stay tuned for next week's Mobility Monday.